If you've just started gardening in Florida, let me tell you something that most people don't realize right away. Florida gardening is not the same as gardening up north. No, our seasons are different, our soil is different, and if you plant the wrong vegetable at the wrong time, you'll feel like a complete failure. Maybe you've already felt this. But the good news is, once you understand how Florida seasons work and start with vegetables that actually like our climate, gardening suddenly gets a lot easier. Today I'm going to share with you the easiest vegetables to grow in Florida, especially if you're just getting started. Hi, I'm Rhonda, Florida Garden Gal. So the first thing we need to talk about is the Florida seasons, because it's different than from most of the country. In many places, you start planting your vegetables in April, but here in Florida, spring starts much sooner. In some parts of Florida, spring may be considered to start in mid-January. Here in Central Florida, I tend to think of the seasons like this. Spring being mid-February to mid-May. Summer, which is very hot and humid, being mid-May to September. During the summer, I'm usually out in the garden very first thing in the morning and have to be back in the house by 8 o'clock, 8:30 at the latest, because it's just so humid. And then we have my favorite planting season, which is what we call winter, which is actually starting in late September and going through February. And if you plant during that season, you're going to feel like a very successful gardener. That's when gardening in Florida is at its very best. Now, the rest of the country, they're plowed under snow. They're not thinking about gardening. But here, we can be gardening. So let's talk about spring gardening. And the easy vegetables to grow in spring gardening are tomatoes. And there's actually two types of tomatoes that grow really well in Florida. And that's the Floridade tomatoes and the Everglades tomatoes. The Everglades are almost legendary. They're small little cherry tomatoes and super easy to grow. And then there's dinosaur kale, which I do have some dinosaur kale right here that I have planted back in the fall, which would be our winter gardening, and it's still going strong here in mid-March. In the spring, we can also plant carrots. The carrots that I like to plant are Danvers carrots. Those you can also plant for your winter garden. I planted some last fall. I've already brought mine out of the garden, already dug them up, and I'm eating fresh carrots. And then one of my favorites is yard-long beans. I think a lot of people want to plant green beans, and green beans grow quite easily up north. Not always so easy here. But if you plant the yard-long beans, they will grow and you will be very successful. They're very easy to grow, so highly recommend the yard-long beans. And then there's peppers, green peppers and banana peppers. Those are super easy to grow. Plant those in spring. You can plant them from transplants and you'll have peppers for the next 2 or 3 months. Now, when summer arrives, it is just brutal. It's hot, it's humid. As I said before, I'm usually out of the garden by 8 a.m. But if you like these vegetables that I'm about to mention, they are easy to grow in Florida. And that is black-eyed peas, also known as cow peas, and okra, and Florida cranberry. I don't plant those because I don't like them, but they are super easy to grow in Florida. They like our hot, humid summers. So if you like those, go for them. Those are going to grow for you. Now, I'm going to share a little secret with you. In Florida, the best time for vegetable gardening is what we call our winter garden. You can start planting seeds in September for arugula, collard greens, dinosaur kale, carrots, romaine lettuce, onions. All of these are going to do super great in the winter time. Another super easy plant to grow in Florida is spinach. We have New Zealand spinach here and longevity spinach. This spinach actually died back in the cold, but it came back. And I don't think you have to worry particularly what time of the year that you plant spinach, because it's going to grow well. So the winter time is a great time for gardening too, because it's not so hot. It's comfortable to be outside and the bugs have slowed down. So now let's talk about herbs. Some of my favorite that I find are the absolute easiest to grow are mint. I think I've had this pot of mint for more than 15 years. Yeah, there's a little clover in there that I need to pull out, but the mint is doing good, and it made it through our 20-degree weather. And then, of course, we have chives, super easy to grow. I've had these chives for quite a long time too. I like to plant my herbs in these separate containers, and particularly mint, because mint grows like crazy. You do not want to plant that in the ground. I have some rosemary planted, and this rosemary also made it through our cold winter. Rosemary is another great herb you can plant and keep going. Now this one I did plant in my raised bed, and the reason is because it's also a bug deterrent. So you plant rosemary with certain vegetables. In this bed I have it planted with broccoli and Brussels sprouts that I planted for my winter garden. And then, I don't have anything planted in this bed yet, but I also have some curled parsley planted in this little container. So those are some herbs that'll grow easily for you. Now, when it comes to seeds, I like to buy my seeds from Florida Seeds. They really understand what grows in our climate, and they sell their seeds in little boxes, spring box, summer box, winter box. I mean, you can also buy them individually, but I like how they package them in the appropriate box for the season. You know, yeah, sure, you can run to the big box store and buy some seeds, but they're not specifically for our climate, our soil. So I highly recommend that you check out flseeds.com. That's where I get a lot of my seeds. I also get seeds from Baker Heirloom Seeds. I'll put a link for both of these below. That's where I get my yard-long beans. Now, I'll be honest with you. There's a couple of plants, a couple of vegetables that I've just never had success with. I have not been able to grow cucumbers. I've not been able to grow squash. I don't know why. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I've followed all the advice, you know, plant it at the right time, blah, blah. So if you've been successful growing cucumbers or squash in Florida, share the tips below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Maybe there's just something I'm missing on that one. I love to eat cucumbers and squash, so I'd love to be able to grow them. And you know, I'm not afraid to admit that I'm in the process of learning, just like everyone else. And I'm sharing with you the tips that I've learned along the way. And I'm still learning. Hopefully you are too. If you're new here, I share Florida gardening tips every week to help you grow a garden that works in our climate instead of fighting it. These are tips and tricks that I've learned based on my own trial and error. So please subscribe. It really helps the channel. And I'll see you next time in the garden.